What's up guys, it's Mike with Shallow Reefing, coming back at you with another video, and today this tank still has high phosphate levels. I have done water changes, I have siphoned out the sand bed, I have cleaned my marine pure spheres, I've cleaned out my bio bricks, my export from Brightwell, and I have started a refugium, put GFO in and phosphate in baggies in the sump, and it's still got some high phosphate. So there's only one solution that I'm gonna come up with that's gonna solve this problem. And that is Brightwell Phosphate E. Like, I still have the price on it. It's the big bottle, that's why it's 40 bucks. It's pretty expensive, but you do get a lot for it. And a little bit goes a long way based off my research. So my plan is to bring down the phosphate in my tank in a relatively reasonable manner. Slow, but get it down to a nice stable level, because right now it's at 0.37. I'm going to test right before I dose this and see what it is. That way we can kind of compare after a little bit, and I'll do some calculations for you so you can see just where it's at, how much I dosed, and where I got it down to. Now the one thing about Phosphate E is you want to make sure you bring your levels down slowly. There's been all these horror stories about dosing it. Not dosing Phosphate E, but lanthanum chloride. This does have lanthanum chloride in it, but it's more of a dilute lanthanum chloride, so it's not as risky to your tank, but you still have to do some precautions, such as making sure that you're not dosing it directly into the tank. You want to kind of drip it into like an area of high flow that's going to go into a filter section, because what the lanthanum chloride is going to do is bind to the phosphate, and it's going to be taken up by your filter socks and your skimmer. And the best place to dose this into, based off of all my reading, is probably the overflow. So my plan is to do this in the morning, dose it into the overflow, and kind of watch it throughout the day. I've seen some people, especially on Reef Bum, where they've dosed lanthanum chloride at night and they wake up and their fish are dead. I don't think that's going to happen for this, because it's Brightwell and I trust Brightwell. So we're going to give it a go, and I'm going to go over some precautions and how much I'm going to dose. By the way, if you ever need to dose like any phosphate removers, go to this website. It'll be at the link below, and you can kind of see exactly how much you need to dose. So I'll kind of plug it in and we'll see what my dosage amount will be. All right, so I have about 220 gallon system, and I'm currently at about 0.34, and I want to get it down to 0.1. Now I don't want to get it too low too quick, so all I have to do to dose Phosphate E, 13.2 milliliters. And that is it. That is all I got to dose for this. And I have a 500 milliliter bottle. This stuff's gonna last me forever. Look how much I spent on that. Why is stuff expensive in this hobby? Seriously, way too expensive sometimes. And yes, I did get this from my LFS, so support your LFS, go buy from them. Now the main reason why I want to get the phosphate down is because I have a phosphate and nitrogen imbalance. My phosphate's way too high compared to my nitrogen. You can kind of see I've been fighting cyanobacteria and some algae going. My phosphates are about 0.34, while my nitrates, even with dosing nitrates, are hovering around 10. Alright guys, so I just tested my parameters, and obviously watching Reef Bum because I love listening to him, and we got 34.9 salinity, 7.8 alkalinity, 420 calcium, 14 nitrates, and 0.37 PO4 at 11 a.m. So I'm going to plug that into the calculator and we'll see how much I need to dose. Alright, so calculator says I need to dose 15 milliliters. Now, I have filter floss on the top quilt batting going into my filter socks, and I think I need to clean that off because that looks scummy. Remember, you need to put this in a high flow area, and it needs to be filtered out by filter socks and a skimmer. So being in the overflow, in my opinion, would be one of the best spots to put it, because it's going to go directly in. Now I'm not too worried that I'm not going to get the full benefit of it, because I'm only going to bring it down to 0.1 from 0.37. I'm not trying to lower it right away. I'm just going to kind of slowly do it and get it to a stable level. That way, hopefully all this crazy cyano will be gone. All right, let's put in the overflow. Now I'm only going to do a little bit at a time, come back and do the rest, probably 5 milliliters at a time. All right, I don't know what the heck is going on. I have now just tested it about 9 hours later, and it's showing 0.9 for the phosphate, when I put Phosphate E in. What the heck is going on? Alright, so a meeting of the minds with Mike and Wayne. They can't figure it out either. So my theory is when Wayne used his, everything went down and his phosphate went down and no big deal. But for me, my phosphate skyrocketed. I don't know if something's different in my system, if it's binding to something, the lanthanum chloride, and the Hannah's reading it crazy. I don't know. The fish have no signs of distress anywhere. It's nighttime on the reef and I have my light on. So I'm not worried about the fish. My skimmer and stuff, I cleaned it out. It was completely filled and I spilled fish poop all over me. So that was fun. I think I'm going to take the filter socks out tomorrow and I'm gearing up for a water change. So I'm going to do 2 20-gallon water changes and see what happens. All right, it's late at night. I'm reading on Reef to Reef. It says that there are sometimes false positives with lanthanum chloride, which means that it will register at higher than what the levels are if it hasn't precipitated out. Now my friend Wayne, he's running a different setup than me because he has filter rollers, not filter socks like I do. So his are a little bit more fine and it will take it out of the water column much quicker. So I'm thinking that as my filter socks kind of build up, they're going to collect more and more and my levels are going to drop and drop. So what I'm going to do is wait until the morning. I don't think anything is going to stress them out too much and do that big water change, but I'm pretty sure I'm getting a false positive reading because of lanthanum chloride after reading on Reef to Reef what's been happening. Sometimes it's nice to just sit back and look at the tank after a water change. This is my view from my desk, so let's go and test the parameters. It is about 4 o'clock and I did the water change at, finished it up at 11. So let's see what the phosphate is. It dropped, well, I did a 15% water change. So if it drops 15%, then it was due to the water change. But if it dropped a little bit more than that, then we know it was Phosphate E exporting it out with the filter floss and filter socks and a little help with the water change. But man, that tank looks real good after a water change. Oh, so nice. All right, and we're down to 0.24. All right, so let's do some math. If a 15% water change would just reduce the phosphates by 15%, 15% of 0.37 is like 0.05 or something like that. So if it was just the water change, it would have been 0.32 and I'm at 0.24. However, I did calculate my dose of the phosphate E to reduce it down to 0.1 from 0.37. So it didn't really work as well as I thought it would, but that's a good thing. Look how happy the fish and everything is. It's pretty happy. So the main part about this is go slow. My whole point is going slow in this hobby. It took me a while to get my phosphates up that high and I'm going to try to bring it down in a slow manner. So I'm pretty happy with the results. Not what I was expecting, but you know, reduction is reduction. I'm sure if I gave it a little bit longer to go through the system that it would eventually work its way out. So I will be back. I don't know if I want to do this video yet and turn it out, but I'll probably be back in a week's time, check the phosphate again, see where it's at, see if it's continuing to go lower, see if that phosphate E is still in the system with the lanthanum chloride and it's working its way out of the system. All right, so I will be back at you in 1 week's time. All right guys, it's been about a week, so let's go test my phosphate levels and see where all my levels are after this. And in case you're wondering, the cyano is still pretty bad. Yep, not looking great. All right, and now I am at 0.25, so it looks like your dose is not going to change too much over the week. So on 1 8, I don't know why I put 11, I'm like dyslexic, I was 0.24 and that was like a day after dosing. It looks like it just brings it down 1 day after you dose it and it doesn't kind of stay in your system very long. Interesting. And don't forget I also did a water change and then measured it because I had that false reading later on that day because of all the binding of the phosphate. So not bad. Which means this only really stays in your system like 24 to 48 hours and then it precipitates out all the phosphate. Not bad. Now that I know that, I'm going to make another dose and see you know, in a week's time, what it's going to be. I'm not going to do a water change this time. I don't see the need for it. All right, time to add more phosphate E. So now I'm at 0.25, and I really want to get down to 0.03. I'm probably not going to reach 0.03 because remember I was at 0.37. I want to get to 0.1. I put 15 milliliters in, and I only got to about 0.24. 0.25. All right, this is closer to 13 milliliters, so I'm probably just going to do 2 doses as opposed to, 3 that I did. So we'll probably just do like 7 at a time. Come back in like 20 minutes, do the rest of it. Then we'll see what we get. Actually, I'm not going to film it. I will be back at you guys in about 2 days. See what the phosphate level is. All right, we are now 25 hours after dosing phosphate E, and the reading on the phosphate checker is 0.2. What? I calculated it to be down to 0.03. I did 13 milliliters of phosphate E. Maybe it's because it's going in the overflow and it's not circulating enough in the tank. I don't know. So let's do 15 more milliliters, but this time I'll put it into the main tank by the overflow, so some of it might be in suspension in the water column and some of it might go over the overflow. We'll see. 0.2 is definitely way better than 0.37, but still. All right, it is the next day. I'm checking my nitrates and phosphate levels. So it's now the 16th, so it's been a little bit more than 24, but yeah, right on 24 hours. And we got 0.14 phosphate. Not bad. I was hoping for a little bit less, but taking it down from 0.37 right here down to 0.14 very slowly over the course of a couple of days is really great. Now let's see the nitrates. 3.7. Oh my gosh. So my nitrates went from 14. There's no way they would drop down that fast unless, think about that. I put that DIY Cato reactor online too. I did a 32-gallon water change, so it should have only dropped about 15% of 14. Should have been like maybe, 3 parts per million. Should have been around like 11, 10, but it's at 3.7. That means my Cato reactor is going and going crazy, which I can attest to. In the matter of like 2 weeks, that thing's already looking good. So Cato reactor is doing great, which probably means I still have some phosphates that are kind of leaching out from the sand bed, maybe that brick. Who knows? There's a lot of phosphates in this system. So I have my calcium, my alkalinity, and this is a calcium nitrate and potassium nitrate mix. I need to up my dosage here so that way I increase my nitrates, so that way my Cato will not be pulling out strictly nitrates and a little bit of phosphates, so it'll pull out both, and I can replace the nitrates and keep reducing those phosphates. All right, so Brightwell Phosphate E, how has it gone? Well, not too bad. It worked better the second time when I dosed it into the display by the overflow, because some of it probably got into the tank and then went into the overflow, as opposed to directly in the overflow where I barely had any contact time with anything. Plus I'm doing very, very small doses, bringing it down slowly. Do not dump the whole bottle in. There are horror stories. All right, so let's recap what is going on with the tank. I have a nutrient imbalance where my phosphates were way too high. I had been doing a refugium, but it was like not a very good refugium. So I decided to upgrade it with a DIY Cato reactor. While I was doing that, I was also doing GFO and I was doing Phospan in my sump on that little overflow section, the bubble trap before the return. I was siphoning out the sand bed, and when I was siphoning out the sand bed, still more phosphate was leaching out and coming from the sand bed, which means I probably have a lot of buildup, as you can see, a lot of buildup detritus phosphate nutrients trapped in my sand bed and also in my media, which I cleaned out. After 3 rounds of dosing phosphate E at about 15 milliliters each time, so 45 milliliters of phosphate E over the course of a week, I brought my phosphates down from 0.37 all the way down to 0.14. That's a lot of stuff to combat phosphate, and it still didn't get it down to where I want it to go, but it's in the right direction, which is the important thing. Now, because the tank is almost where I want it to be at, the nutrients are under control finally. I'm gonna have to dose more nitrates to the tank and probably dose one more time of the Phosphate E. I think I can call this video quits. Have I successfully been able to reduce phosphate? Yes. Has it taken a long time? Yes. But it took me a long time to get here, so if it takes me about a year to get here, am I gonna, fix this in the course of a month? Probably not. It's gonna take a long time. So now we're left with this problem here. All that junk on my sand bed. So the good thing is I called Brightwell, and Brightwell's awesome, and they decided to give me, where is it? Here it is. Microbacter Clean, because I talked to them about my problem. And because they gave me Microbacter Clean, I ended up buying Phosphate E from them anyway. So, they did give me this, said use it, see what it does to the tank. But I already spent like 40 bucks on the Phosphate E, so I consider it a wash. And it's definitely not sponsored. So, in the next video, we're going to clean up this whole tank and all this cyano and this nastiness using Microbacter Clean and maybe MB7. So, if you guys like what you see here and you want to see more, click the subscribe button. Give me a like, give me a comment below, let me know how you like this video, and join me on this journey as we clean up this tank using natural means. And I'll explain it in the next video why we're using Microbacter Clean as opposed to ChemiClean. Oh no, Daniel. Say, see you soon.